The first thing I noticed that morning was the sunlight spilling across the marble countertops, painting everything in golden warmth. I wrapped my hands around my mug, the steam curling against my face, and felt the familiar hum of calm control. This apartment, this life, everything mine. I'd worked for it, clawed for it, and I'd finally built a space where no one could make me feel small again. Then my phone buzzed. A group text from my family, full of emojis and cheerful chatter, but underneath it, the tone that always made my stomach twist. Expectation. They were planning a visit, Christmas apparently, and my mind immediately flashed back. The Christmas when they forgot my gift, when my 15-year-old heart shrank into itself while everyone else laughed. I smoothed down my silk blouse, heart ticking a little faster. I had chosen to stay quiet all these years, to let them assume I was still struggling, still dependent. Let them imagine whatever story suited them. But this time, I wouldn't just sit back. Not when the truth was mine to reveal. The ringtone pierced my thoughts, my mother calling. I felt the old familiar pull. Hurt, pride, the ghost of teenage embarrassment. And a thrill, a sharp, undeniable thrill. Because what they didn't know was that the gift they forgot had grown into something no one could overlook. I can still remember that Christmas like it was yesterday, though I was barely 15. The trees sparkled with lights that reflected in my wide, hopeful eyes. I had saved every dollar from my weekend job at the diner to buy them gifts, hand-picked, thoughtful, proof that I cared. My hands had trembled as I wrapped the last one, a little book I knew my mother would love. I carried it proudly into the living room, expecting the warmth, the smiles, maybe even a hug. But instead, nothing. My parents and older brother were laughing, talking about plans, about their own presents. The small box in my hands felt suddenly enormous, heavy with disappointment. "Where did this come from?" my mother asked, barely glancing at it. Her tone was polite but distant, the kind that made me shrink. My father didn't even acknowledge it, absorbed in a conversation about stock prices and party guests. I swallowed hard, my throat tight, my hands curling into fists around the gift. I felt the sting of being invisible, of being forgotten. The lump in my throat was so sharp it made my ears ring. I wanted to cry, but I couldn't. Not there, not with their eyes already elsewhere. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, my grandmother found me sitting on the stairs, hugging the gift to my chest. "Samantha," she said gently, brushing a loose strand of hair from my face. "Sometimes, people forget to see what's in front of them. But you have something they can't take away. Don't ever let anyone make you feel small." Her words sank deep, planting a seed. I didn't yet know how, but I would take control. I would build something of my own, something that no one could ignore. And from that night on, I made a quiet promise. I'd never let being overlooked define me again. I left that small town with nothing but a backpack, my grandmother's words echoing in my ears, and a determination that burned hotter than any fear I carried. College was grueling, the kind of late-night grind that tests every ounce of patience and courage. I worked 2 jobs, barely slept, and learned quickly that no one was going to hand me success. I had to take it. It was during an internship at a boutique interior design firm in Chicago that I met Vanessa Morgan, a woman who seemed to radiate both power and warmth. She looked at my sketches and didn't just see mistakes. She saw potential. "You have vision, Samantha," she said one afternoon, leaning over my shoulder. "Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. But you have to believe it first." Her words were simple, but they lit something inside me. The early years were hard. I faced constant rejection, clients who dismissed me because of my age, colleagues who underestimated my skills, nights when the only light in my tiny studio apartment was my desk lamp. I questioned myself endlessly, sometimes even wondering if I'd made a mistake leaving home. But every small victory reminded me of why I started. The first client who truly trusted me, the first profitable project I completed, the first recognition from someone I respected, it all built momentum. I kept my success secret from my family, posting only modest photos of work on social media, never showing the full scope of what I was creating. They believed I was still struggling, still the girl they could dismiss. Meanwhile, I was buying my first condo at 24, slowly turning it into a home that reflected every late night, every ounce of grit I had poured into my dream. Vanessa remained my mentor, but more importantly, she became a guide to self-confidence. She taught me how to negotiate contracts, how to present myself without apology, how to trust my instincts. Each lesson was another brick in the foundation of the life I was quietly building, a life no one would be able to overlook when the time came. And slowly, deliberately, I learned the power of patience, to hold my success close, to allow my family to continue underestimating me, all while I grew stronger, wealthier, and more independent. Every email I sent, every project I closed, every compliment I received from a client, they were proof that the little girl whose gift was forgotten would never, ever be overlooked again. Christmas arrived, and with it, the familiar whirl of expectation. My parents and older brother showed up at my condo, all smiles and holiday cheer, expecting to see the struggling, still finding her way Samantha they thought I was. I opened the door, letting the warm scent of pine and cinnamon greet them, hiding the small, smug smile curling at the corner of my lips.
Wow.
Samantha, this place, my mother started, glancing around, but her words trailed off. I let her take in the living room, where hand-picked art adorned the walls and a custom console table displayed tiny sculptures I'd sourced from artisans around the world. The subtle glow of designer lamps bounced softly off the hardwood floors. Everything spoke of success, taste, and quiet confidence. My father's jaw tightened. He always had an eye for value, and he knew exactly what he was seeing, what he hadn't bothered to see when I was 15. My brother wandered over to the staircase, eyes widening as he noticed the photographs of me at various exhibitions, award ceremonies, and client events, evidence of a career I'd meticulously built out of their sight. I poured myself a cup of coffee, the warmth seeping into my palms, and let a long pause stretch between us. Their eyes followed every subtle movement, every deliberate detail, but I didn't speak.
Not yet.
Finally, I set the cup down and smiled, the kind of calm, firm smile that only comes from knowing you hold all the cards. You probably came expecting to see the same girl you've always dismissed, I said softly, letting my voice carry just enough for them to feel it. But things have changed. Their expressions froze. My mother's lips parted. My father's eyes widened. My brother blinked, searching my face as though he might have missed a clue all these years. I led them into the living room, where the centerpiece wasn't just the furniture or decor, but a single, framed document on the mantel. The deed to the condo. My home. My ownership. My independence, symbolized in black and white. I own this house, I said, letting the weight of the words settle. Every corner, every detail mine. And yes, that includes the rooms you're staying in tonight. The shock hit them in waves. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. My father staggered back, like someone had punched him with a truth he couldn't escape. My brother turned pale, silent, eyes darting between the art, the furnishings, and me. Wait, this is yours, my father finally stammered. I mean, how? Years of work, yes, I interrupted gently but firmly. Late nights, sacrifices, failures no one saw. But I kept moving forward, even when you didn't notice me. And now, I paused, letting my gaze sweep over each of them. The girl whose gift you forgot at 15 is living a life you could never overlook. They stared. Disbelief, shame, and a strange mixture of awe painted their faces. The roles had shifted, and the power wasn't mine to take. It had always been mine, quietly, carefully earned. The room was silent, the kind of heavy, loaded quiet that follows a revelation too big to ignore. I let them sit with it for a moment, watching their eyes flicker between shock, guilt, and awe. Then I spoke, letting each word land with calm authority. I want this Christmas to be different, I said. Different from the ones where I was invisible. You're here now, yes, but if you want to continue being part of my life, things need to change. For all of us. My father shifted uncomfortably. Samantha, we didn't know. You didn't see, I corrected gently. And that's exactly why we're here. Why we're talking. I walked over to the mantel, smoothing my hand over the polished wood. Here's what I need from each of you. Not out of revenge, but because I care and I won't compromise my life for old patterns. I started with my mother. Mom, I want you to stop judging and comparing. You have incredible skills and dreams you've shelved for years. I want you to explore them. Take classes, start projects, rediscover what excites you. But no more undermining, no more diminishing others for your own insecurities. Then my father. Dad, I want honesty. No more dismissing people, no more assuming failure before it happens. If you're going to be part of this family, you do it with integrity. Help others succeed instead of expecting them to stumble for your approval. Finally, my brother. And you, Josh, stop taking for granted what's in front of you. Work on responsibility, on respect. Stop assuming that life will hand you everything because it won't. Learn to contribute, to support, and to grow into the person I know you can be. Their expressions shifted, disbelief softening into tentative curiosity. I could see it, the spark of realization that these weren't just demands, they were opportunities. A chance for each of them to become better, healthier, more connected versions of themselves. I'll help you, I continued, voice warm but firm, but only if these conditions are met. I care about this family, but I will no longer sacrifice my peace, my independence, or my happiness for old patterns of neglect or dismissal. I let the words linger, then stepped back. Their silence was different now, thoughtful, reflective, tinged with humility. The power dynamics had shifted. I wasn't seeking revenge. I was redefining boundaries. My house, my rules, my life, and finally, the respect I deserved. For the first time in years, I felt the relief of clarity. I had the upper hand, not through anger or spite, but through vision, discipline, and love carefully measured with strength. And I knew that if they chose to step into this new reality, we could all grow together, but only if they were willing. The days after that Christmas were quiet at first. My parents and Josh didn't storm out, didn't retreat, they stayed. And slowly, I began to notice subtle changes. My mother signed up for that photography class she'd always talked about, her eyes lighting up with excitement I hadn't seen in years. My father started volunteering at a local nonprofit, genuinely listening to others and celebrating their successes. And Josh, he asked for advice on his first real project at work, no longer assuming he could coast on old habits. I watched them carefully, noting every small step, every effort to break old patterns. And I felt a strange mixture of pride and relief. The little girl who had been invisible, whose gift had been forgotten, was finally in a position to influence, to guide, not through dominance, but through expectation, clarity, and love measured with firm boundaries. One evening, I sat by the window with my grandmother's old locket in hand, the one she had given me the night I sat on the stairs, heartbroken. I opened it and traced the initials inside, feeling that same surge of warmth and strength that had carried me through every challenge. Her words echoed again. Don't ever let anyone make you feel small. And I hadn't. Not once. Not then, not now. I glanced around the condo, the home I had built with every ounce of determination I possessed. It wasn't just a house, it was a testament, a reminder that resilience, vision, and courage could transform pain into power. My family had begun to understand that. They had begun to see me, not the girl they overlooked, but the woman I had become. And as I closed the locket and set it on the mantel, I smiled softly to myself, feeling a calm certainty settle over me. Life had handed me many moments of being forgotten, dismissed, and overlooked, but this time I had written the ending. I leaned back, letting the quiet of the evening wrap around me, and whispered, more to myself than anyone else, they forgot my gift once. But they'll never forget that I own the life I built and the house they live in.